Well, we have an incredibly busy weather setup over the next week or so. If you look at the weather systems that are moving through the country, we've got zonal flow going on. That's east to west flow. But look at this. One system we're seeing on Saturday into Sunday. Another one, which is a little bit more suppressed than it looked earlier, not quite as amplified, but still some wintry precipitation out of it. Now, I get it. If you're in the South, I've had folks chiming in from West Virginia saying winter's over. I wouldn't jump to conclusions so fast just yet. It's still February. Still some time to go. Look what happens as we head into Wednesday. This next system is a little more amplified, and yes, I guess if you're in West Virginia, Kentucky, you're looking at rain, but boy, that could put some heavy snow back into parts of Indiana, Illinois, Missouri, maybe even. Let's see how all this shakes out. Still a long time before we get there. The point is, with this really amplified pattern, who knows what may happen as we head into the next weekend. So this looks far away, but now we're entering that 8 and 9 day time frame. So I think we stay active over the next couple of weeks. Pretty wild to see all of the action across the Northeast with multiple winter storm warnings now that have been issued for parts of New York. We're going to zoom in on this. Also, a lot of winter weather advisories from Cleveland, north of Columbus into Northeast Ohio, into Pennsylvania. And then we've got some ice storm warnings here into parts of Western Maryland here, also up into parts of Pennsylvania for some heavy ice. Freezing rain also possible further to the south into Virginia, parts of West Virginia, and more heavy rain into West Virginia. Speaking of that, also parts of Southwest Virginia. We've still got flood warnings going on back here in Kentucky from the last rain. Into the Northeast, this is where the wintry weather will continue to pound. Not just with this storm, but I think we get another one. It's like a glacier's forming here. And we've even got some winter storm warnings here for Albany, down to Poughkeepsie, not quite to New York City. There's going to be some warm air aloft that's likely going to eat into your snow. I think you start off with a big thump of snow, and look at this. Up into Connecticut, winter storm warnings now out really from Waterbury west, including Danbury, western Connecticut. Still not a lot of confidence that's super high here, although I got to tell you, things are looking really healthy in my mind for the snow dumping here into Massachusetts, northern parts of Connecticut, and then up here into Vermont and New Hampshire. And then further to the north, also into up the northern parts of New York. And then I don't know that we don't see some more snow further to the north here. Now, we've also got winter storm warning, winter weather advisories further to the west for parts of Michigan. Back here into Wisconsin, it does include Minneapolis, St. Paul with the winter weather advisories. But up towards St. Cloud, yeah, look at the winter storm warnings here from western parts of Wisconsin stretching back into the Dakotas. It does include Bismarck with the winter storm warnings. And there's also going to be a lot of wind with this system as it moves off to the east. And again, like I said, this is just the first of, I think, at least 3 or 4 that we're going to see over the next 7 to 10 days across the country. So let's jump back to the maps and let's talk you through this. We're going to take it day by day and system by system. We're going to start off with what's going on heading into Saturday. A weak area of low pressure is rippling along our baroclinic zone. That's that difference between warm and cold air. On the southern side, clearly just rain here. Now we're getting some heavier snow trying to develop across parts of Michigan. And let me tell you what, some of the newest model runs, what's going on here into the Northeast is really interesting. And I get accused of just talking about the Northeast. I mean, where would you talk about if you were looking at this map, right? I'm going to talk about what's going on here in central Missouri. It's quiet right now. If you guys remember the huge snowstorm? I mean, we're just talking about where the weather is. And this is where the big snow, I think, is going to thump over the next 24 to 48 hours, especially right near the front. You get some of that frontogenesis forcing going on there where everything kind of comes together along the coast. Now, an interesting thing is there could be enough dry air aloft, even though some of the soundings, that's when you look at the vertical profile of the atmosphere, may be below freezing all the way up. The problem is that you may not have what we call a snow growth layer. That's where the temperature is at least 10 below 0 Celsius. Even if you have moisture in that region and it's only 5 below, you don't get the crystal growth, that nucleation that you have to get the snowflakes. So that's going to eat into some of the snow totals. We say goodbye to this system. We're going to really dig into that precip here just a little bit more here in a moment, but that pushes off to the east. And now we've got some showers developing across the south as we head into Sunday. Cold high pressure building in here. Your baroclinic zone is what we're going to be watching this week. That pushes to the south, and likely wherever that sets up is where the next piece of energy will slide along. Here we go into Monday. This is not looking as amplified, I think, as it was looking the last couple of days, but still some light snow, I think, still going to happen here across parts of Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa, into parts of Illinois. Now, it's interesting how you have 2 pieces of energy back here with your Arctic air and then another one here just to the south moving into the mid-Atlantic states with some snow. I think from Northern Virginia, Maryland, up into Pennsylvania, even New Jersey. And this one actually looks like it's going to stay more snow for New York City. If I had to guess, out toward Long Island, as your low is pretty far to the south, not pushing your precipitation too far to the northeast with some heavy rain possible across the south. Do we see more severe weather with this? Still some days to go with this. We'll iron all those details out. And here's what I think is interesting about this model run. As your low gets to the coast, it deepens, right? And it moves offshore. Look what what you have back here. Another piece of energy diving through. Bear Clinic zone still set up here, but this trough in the upper levels seems to be a little more amplified. Look how it's digging here into Texas. That puts some colder air into Oklahoma. Now you got to watch this axis, because as your trough deepens, you're bringing warm air up on this side of the system. Now I think you got the potential for some heavy snow on the backside of this. If we can get this going, we're talking about Wednesday now. We're heading now into almost Saturday. This is Friday night at the time of this video stream, if you're watching it on playback. So there you go. That looks kind of impressive. So we'll have to see how that shakes out. And again, if you're hoping for snow here into West Virginia, into Kentucky, and anywhere in the mid-Atlantic, look at this, another ice storm into Pennsylvania. My gracious, the trees and the power lines still at risk again with more icing possible here. And that could put some more mixed precipitation into the northeast. Very, very odd to see that. And yes, Claire is spamming me with the MJO message. Yes, we are going to be going into a cold phase, by the way, too, on the way with that MJO, which if you look at the long range, I think it's kind of interesting, especially as we head into March. Just saying. All right, let's keep going. That moves out to sea, and now things continue to be very wild heading into next week. I think that we stay very active. I don't think things settle down completely. If anything, I think there are more storms on the way after this. The GFS tells a very similar story. If you look at it, you can see this would be your storm through the weekend, putting that snow and ice here into the northeast. Heading into next week, the GFS does look a little different on Monday. Look how it does with this system. It doesn't do anything. I mean, that's pretty wild looking. If anything, you've got this broad area of overrunning moisture. And that's kind of been it looked like this a couple of days ago. The GFS is still giving you that idea. That does put some snow into West Virginia. So I think the details of fine-tuning that out still are there. But look, the GFS has that, what now would be your Storm 3, just like the European did, with that heavier snow up here into Indiana, Illinois. And then into the northeast with another ice storm. We talked about that here into the northeast, and then the active pattern just continues, I think, heading toward the end of the month. All right, let's talk about the snow totals through the next couple of days. Here's what we're seeing now across the northern plains. Again, a good swath here of 6+ inches from Wisconsin back into Minnesota and North Dakota. These are touch numbers by the National Weather Service. Getting into the northeast, the heaviest snow would likely be right here into the far northeast, again, north of New York City. I don't think we're going to see nearly as much snow across New York City. We're going to likely get a good thump of snow, and then we quickly go back over to some freezing rain and some sleet. Nonetheless, somebody's going to see a good 5 to 8 inches of snow. Some places could see a little bit more. We're going to zoom in just a little bit closer here into the northeast and dive into some of these totals. In fact, I really want to get in close here. We're talking about New York now, down into Pennsylvania. Again, on the southern side of this, I think you mix over to that sleet and freezing rain, but you could see more than 2, 3, 4 inches of snow, especially the further north you go. You could see more like half a foot, especially once you get into Connecticut. And now we're looking at close to 8, 10 inches of snow. Boston, the official forecast as of right now, looks like 8.1. So a good 6 to 12, maybe even in some areas, because I think you're going to get an isolated foot somewhere in this area, especially with that frontogenesis, that banding of snow, which looks like it's going to happen here. And then we're going to be done with this for a little while, but this certainly is not the end. A little bit closer too on the ice. Again, Pennsylvania, that looks to be the sweet spot. If it's sweet, I call it the bad spot, I guess. So we're definitely going to see some ice in this region through the weekend. Let's time some of this precipitation out and break it down. Again, here goes the future radar through the early morning hours. You've got some ice here into the mountains of West Virginia, from the Greenbrier Valley north into the northern mountains of West Virginia, the Shenandoah Valley, maybe some ice as far south as the Roanoke Valley, and then here into northern Virginia. And then a second area of precipitation. That's the heavier snow across Michigan. That is moving east. So now we are moving through the lunchtime hour. By 1, 2 o'clock, we start to see the snow and the ice and the mix move into the nation's capital, over towards Baltimore, Delaware, north into New Jersey, some snow here into Philadelphia. We quickly switch over to some sleet or some freezing rain. Back towards Pittsburgh, you can see that mix here, also across northern Ohio. We get that warm air surging north into West Virginia, into southern Pennsylvania. We'll likely change over to rain. But on the northern side of this, by the time we get into the evening hours, some heavy snow now moving into northeast Pennsylvania from Allentown east to New York City out to Long Island. That could be some really heavy snow. And then a squall line south of that. There could even be some thunderstorms associated with this line moving through parts of West Virginia and Kentucky, Tennessee, down into Virginia. Let's continue to push this precipitation out. We'll get a little bit closer here in the mid-Atlantic where you've got that mix now through the 8, 9 o'clock hour. That continues to push north through Pennsylvania. There's the heavy snow into New York, up to Connecticut. The snow really picks up, and it could come down really hard, 1 to 2 inches per hour, I think, with some of this frontogenesis, that banding of snow going on. And then here comes that warm air aloft. You can see it mixing things over in New Jersey to sleet, to freezing rain in some areas, especially southern New Jersey into southern parts of Pennsylvania. We may go over to just a little bit of rain as things end. And as you really lose that snow growth layer aloft, you may end up with just some freezing drizzle back here. And again, I think that's why in places like New York and Long Island, we end up flipping back over to that freezing rain or sleet. That's going to eat into your snow totals. I've been talking about that for quite some time now. If you go look at the HRRR, it has the kind of the same idea too, where let's flip it back to this run. You can see that mixed precipitation trying to move back into New York too. So the short range models are the ones you want to look at this point, and they start to pick up on those minute, those really small details. And if anything, the HRRR tries to continue to bring that dry slot aloft in. That gets rid of your snow growth layer. You could have cold air from top to bottom all the way to the surface, but if you don't have that critical snow growth layer, you're not going to get the snow. I don't care how cold it is. It's got to be, well, I do care. It's got to be 10 below Celsius. You got to have that nucleation layer, and if you don't, you get the sleet and the freezing rain. So that could eat into some of the totals, and I think the HRRR is picking up on some of that. That continues to push off to the northeast as we move now into what? Saturday night into Sunday, so we'll go here to the northeast, and then we're going to move back to the west because there is more snow on the way. We're just diving into where it's heavy right now and where we've got the winter storm watches and warnings. Snow going now Sunday morning into Boston. Look, even the HRRR trying to bring that mix into southern parts of Massachusetts. So, I don't know if the NAM and the listen, I'd believe the NAM and the HRRR over the precipitation type at this point over the European or the GFS. All right, that goes out to sea. We're done with that, and let's go back to oh, by the way, it's going to be quite windy too. Take a look at this. Heading through Saturday, especially across Kentucky and Tennessee into West Virginia. Look at this. Winds could gust over 50, especially into the mountains here, and it's going to get really windy along the coast too. Winds could gust over 30 to 40, especially down to North Carolina out ahead of our front, and as that blows through, we'll see our winds switch in from the northwest. All right. Let's go a little bit further to the west. We've got the snow. We've talked about that across Wisconsin, Iowa. That will move through. It doesn't look like a tremendous amount of snow here. Again, we looked at those totals back here. Maybe an inch or so across northern Iowa. Those numbers jump up the further north you get. Let's continue to push that ahead in time. Once that moves into the Great Lakes, we start to dry out. And just a few showers across Texas. Interestingly enough, can you see this here across the northern part of Texas up towards Lubbock? I mean, are we seeing or Amarillo, I guess, a little bit of freezing rain on the backside of this? Maybe. That cold air trying to undercut some of that moisture. Then we've got some showers across Texas. The flow starts to return back out of the south, and we start to pick up the moisture again. There it is across northern Texas heading into sometime Monday, and that's the next system that drops into the central part of the country, bringing some snow and rain here. This is today's European, the latest that ran this evening. It really suppressed that moisture. If I take you back to the one that ran a little bit earlier today, also a little more suppressed, but maybe a little more moisture, quite moisture starved here. And then that moves off to the east, but the second storm may be a little bit stronger. Again, that's the one I was talking about that may have a bit of a deeper trough pushing that colder air south. And then you got to wonder, does this put severe weather into the south? I hope not, but something to keep an eye on. And then beyond that, this would be in the next weekend, more active weather with that storm track. Across the west, over the next couple of days, much quieter than what we've seen lately. Dry weather looks like it's going to stick all the way into, well, at least most of next week. Maybe some rain and snow by the time we get into Thursday and Friday. And look at this. Possibly moving into Southern California. Boy, that puts some snow on the San Francisco peaks if we get that moving into Arizona, into New Mexico too. Still a long time to go before we get there. Okay, that's all I got. If you just tuned in, this is the end of the live stream. It's available for playback. It's not a long video. Go over all the snow totals and everything. Thanks for all of you guys who are watching. If you're brand new to the channel, I'm Travis. Many years ago, I used to be a chief meteorologist on television. I've been out of that for many years, and I've been doing these videos on YouTube. So if you enjoy this kind of stuff, we get into some of the details. Sometimes we talk a lot. We get into some deeper things like snow growth layers and all that fun stuff. I hope you will consider subscribing and come back. All right, see you next time. Have a great one, and have a great weekend. If you don't come back tomorrow, I'll be back. So hope to see you here.